Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, your intel in the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas renews calls to lifting the bank secrecy law to address corruption.
We would support it. We would support it. Right now, because of bank secrecy, when we want to freeze an account, we have to go through the Court of Appeals. And so to avoid that step, to make that step unnecessary, so we can do things more quickly, then we have to lift bank secrecy.
We get the views of Philippine businesses with Employers Confederation of the Philippines Governor Butch Guerrero. And no let-up in the Philippine markets. Local stocks are down a sixth straight session, and the peso hovers at 58 to the dollar on account of lingering corruption concerns. When will the markets break the fall? Just in at the top of the hour, the Philippine Statistics Authority announces the country's trade deficit narrowed to $3.54 billion in August. Preliminary data show this was driven by a 4.6% decline in exports, still led by electronic products, and a nearly 5% decrease in imports, particularly mineral fuels. The August figure also reflects a 19.4% annual decline in the trade gap. Data also showed Hong Kong was the country's top export destination for the month, while China remained the leading source of imports. Calls to lift the bank secrecy law grow as the scale of corruption in government flood control projects confounds investigators and the public alike. The latest to join the chorus of voices is Bangko Sentral Governor Eli Remolona, saying amending the law is necessary to freeze accounts in question faster. Here's an excerpt from our conversation. What about calls for a lifting of the bank secrecy law? Are you in favor of that? There are a couple of bills, and the SEC chair, Attorney Francis Lim, had already said he's backing it.
Yes.
In favor of preventing more corruption.
We would support it. We would support it. Right now, because of bank secrecy, when we want to freeze an account, we have to go through the Court of Appeals. And so to avoid that step, then we have to lift bank secrecy.
And are there any safeguards to ensure that the privacy laws of ordinary consumers and clients won't be impeded?
There will still be safeguards. Banks are not gonna just... there's a basic bank secrecy process, even without the law. So if there's no reason to give other people the information, the banks won't do it. You can't just go to a bank and ask for my information about my account. You have to have a good reason for that.
The Securities and Exchange Commission last week expressed support for proposals to amend the country's bank secrecy laws, said to be among the strictest in the world. Maharlika Investment Corporation Independent Director Stephen Yang told this program, rather than amend the law that created the Anti-Money Laundering Council, the government is better off making banking laws less restrictive.
I think AMLA has the power it needs. The real problem, I think, which we've seen in previous investigations, it's the breadth of the anti-disclosure, the secrecy law in banking systems. I think I would go down that path rather than the bank secrecy of accounts and deposits law, rather than AMLA, which I think their powers are in line with most in the region.
Several bills are currently pending in Congress to lift the bank secrecy law, primarily to promote transparency and tackle corruption in government. Bank deposits are protected by Republic Act number 1405, or the Law on Secrecy of Bank Deposits. The law mandates all deposits are considered absolutely confidential, except upon written permission of the depositor through a waiver. Third and final installment, Bangko Sentral Governor Eli Remolona looked back on the evolving risks in his 2 years in office. I started by asking him why he's moved from assigning probabilities to scenario building. I'm reminded back in the June policy briefing, you did make a mention of doing away with assigning probabilities.
Yes,
and
yes.
just going for scenario building.
Yes, yes.
So how has that now informed you going forward of what next to do when it comes to especially the unknowns, the new risks emerging, and also what to do next when it comes to monetary policy?
It turns out to be not so easy to figure out the scenarios. We used to just worry about forecast errors around our projections, and now it turns out we have to think harder of what possible risks there are to our forecasts, and that helps us with the analysis.
But you're still keeping the scenario building process rather than assigning probabilities.
We're improving it. In the past, we had 6 scenarios. That's too many. That's too many. We're down to 3 scenarios these days. We just have more focus on what the risks going forward are going to be.
And this AI, if any, help in keeping those scenarios very informative?
AI has been very helpful, yeah. We depend not 100% on AI. We depend maybe 10% on AI.
And the rest of the 90%?
Is data that we look at, and then intuition, judgment.
And also inspired by former maybe Federal Reserve Chairman like Alan Greenspan, for one, when you made a mention of Goldilocks in defining 5% as Goldilocks, right?
Yes.
That came to mind. Did it? And how did that word come up in your assessment?
We were using the term at the Fed.
That it would mean that the economy is neither too hot nor too cold.
That's right.
So is this your assessment still of the Philippine economy?
At the moment, yes. At the moment, I would say we're in the Goldilocks zone. But we look at the data every day and see whether we should still remain in that zone.
What could change your view then?
Well, if there's a surprise on growth or there's a surprise on inflation, some inflationary factor emerges that we hadn't anticipated. Right now, some of those include oil prices, electricity prices. On the growth side, we don't know what the effect of this flood control scandal will be on investment sentiment.
Given the proliferation still and going to the illegal gambling sites and the anomalous flood control projects, do you think there might be a risk that the Philippines would be brought back to the list of the Financial Action Task Force's gray list, and also the European Commission's list of high-risk countries for financial crimes?
So yes, there is a risk, but unlike before, we're now being more proactive. In the past, the FATF would tell us what to do. They would a list of action items, and then we have to fulfill those action items. Now we're doing things before they tell us.
Such as? Could you name a couple?
Well, such as all these things we've been doing, avoiding cash withdrawals over 500,000 pesos, removing the links to online gambling. So we're doing many things that without waiting for FATF to tell us.
Catch my full interview with Governor Remolona on The Long Take, airing at 7 p.m. Philippine Standard Time tomorrow, October 1 on One News. This interview will also be posted and streamed on our social media channels. Land Bank of the Philippines has denied facilitating irregular transactions after a senator discovered withdrawals of alleged kickbacks from one of its branches. In a statement, Land Bank maintains that all of its transactions are above board, carried out within the bounds of Philippine banking laws. The state-run bank says that the funds deposited in the account of SYMS construction contractor Sally Santos came from appropriated funds. During the Senate Blue Ribbon hearing last week, Senator Kiko Pangilinan asked Land Bank Malolos Highway Head Maria Lilibeth Lim why she did not flag Santos's 457 million peso transaction. That money was alleged kickback for dismissed Bulacan Assistant District Engineer Bryce Hernandez. Pangilinan said the branch should have required the issuance of a manager's check instead of releasing the money in cash because the transaction exceeded the 500,000 peso threshold. You're watching Money Talks. Coming up, how does corruption weigh down the Philippine economy? Butch Guerrero of Employers Confederation of the Philippines weighs in. And EPLDT unveils Pilipinas AI, the country's first sovereign artificial intelligence platform. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Former National Police Chief Rodolfo Azurin is the new special advisor of the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. Replacing Baguio City Mayor Benji Magalong, who resigned Friday, Malacanang says they are confident on the retired general's experience to strengthen the Commission's mandate of upholding accountability in the use of public funds. Azurin thanked President Bongbong Marcos for trusting him as Magalong's replacement, whom he considered, quote, the most capable for the job. Former leaders of Congress who were implicated in the flood control scandal clash in a heated battle of accusations. Former Senate President Cheese Escudero accused former House Speaker Martin Romualdez of orchestrating moves to implicate him and other senators in the corruption scandal. Escudero claimed that witness testimonies are sticking to a script allegedly crafted by Romualdez.
Hindi ba natin nakikita? Napilit tayong pinag-aaway-away. Ito, sa aking paniniwala, ay bahagi pa din ng script at sarswela na nais palaganapin ni Martin Romualdez upang lituhin, guluhin, linlangin at sirain ang ating lipunan at bansa para lamang huwag siyang mabisto.
Romualdez, on the other hand, slammed back, saying Escudero's statements were more of a DDS script or recycled troll accusations. Instead of answering serious questions, he said Escudero chose to deflect and not deny the allegations of him receiving flood control kickbacks. Meanwhile, former House Appropriations Committee Chair Zaldico, who's at the center of the flood control investigations, resigned from his post as Ako Bicol representative. In his resignation letter, Ko cited grave and imminent threat to the lives of his family members for his exit. He also claimed that there is evident denial of his right to due process. Zaldico, former owner of supercontractor SunWest, is accused of bagging billions in project kickbacks. The Employers Confederation of the Philippines and the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry have issued a statement citing zero tolerance for corruption in flood control projects. With us now for more is Arturo Butch Guerrero, ECOP Governor and National Director at the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He is also chairman of Temps and Staffers, Inc., a 35-year-old company in service contracting. It's good to see you again, Butch. Welcome to the program.
Morning, Cathy.
Okay, so what does ECOP and PCCI think about what's gone on over the past week since you issued the Leaders Forum statement, and what stands out the most?
Okay, what stands out the most is that everybody in the business sector, those who are in the Philippine Chamber and in the employers group, agree that this kind of practices we cannot accept and we do not condone because it impedes business, it impedes anti-red tape, and it causes a lot of problems for business people. And it prohibits us from implementing the projects that we really need to implement.
You said that it impedes business. In what way? PCCI takes care of the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, and the Employers Confederation representing big business.
Correct. 95% to 96% of businesses in the Philippines are micro and small. And they are affected because of their sentiments that they are working on a day-to-day basis. Some of them are on a weekly basis. While in ECOP, the large corporations can handle it, can weather through the storms, but we are more worried about the small businesses that caters to a day-to-day financial planning and survival mode.
Okay, so I see that there are two sort of streams here because it's small and medium-sized enterprises and big business. To what extent is CapEx deployment being impacted when it comes to the big businesses? And what impact is that having on wages, for instance, when it comes to the small businesses?
Okay, on CapEx first, Cathy, the expenditures on private projects will still go on. I think the only one that will be affected due to greater scrutiny and delay in release would be the government projects, specifically the DPWH project, as we heard it from Secretary Vince Dizon. However, the private sector capital expenditures will still push through. And they cannot stop because when you stop a project, it costs money and time on our side, on the side of the business community.
So given that and the discussions you've had in the Leaders Forum, are you revising any of your internal targets when it comes to economic growth and inflation? Because inflation is very important to wages.
Correct. But currently, we are reviewing the wages right now. We just had the 50 peso increase in wage last month by the regional wage boards. And out of the 17 wage boards, they will now continually increase the wages as dictated by the National Capital Region. And this is in line with the inflation targets, previous inflation targets. But it's too early to tell right now what is happening and the effect of these Senate hearings. But I think we are still in the level of, we are all surprised. We are all aghasted, if I may use that word. And this goes down to the minimum wage earner down to the Filipino people.
Tell us more about that then. When you say this goes down to the minimum wage earner and the people you've seen out in the streets 2 Sundays ago, what sort of sentiments are you getting, especially as your chair of the Temps and Staffers? You've taken that care of that for 35 years and you've seen them through, maybe even people power too.
Because these minimum wage earners, the ones we employ, They pay the government mandated dues. They pay SSS, PhilHealth, and EB. They pay the withholding tax. They pay all what is due to the government. They can't get away from it. And they really work very hard going to and from their work. And also on the daily, day-to-day grind. And these are very productive people. And they're a very productive part of our society. And yet, they see somebody or a group of people uh, spending on things that are not really necessary. And well, everybody's in social media right now. Several years back, it was not that way. And they can see the big difference. And they can see the different values that are being shown on social media. So again, the words that I used, they were surprised and they are aghasted on how the supposed to be leaders are spending the hard-earned money that they give to the government. That's the sentiment of the minimum wage earners. In fact, somebody delivered something to us and in the house, and he talked about the paghihirap that they do on a day-to-day basis, while some do not have that kind of perspective. So it's mostly aghast and anger that the minimum wage earners are feeling right now, Kat.
So right now it's all emotion, the anger, and the frustration aghast, as you say. When does that graduate towards a little bit more and understanding the impact it could have on the business, on wages, on jobs?
Wow, that's a lot. Let me go to the jobs. We do have certain problems in jobs, basically in jobs mismatch, but it's more of the sentiment of the workers, and we hope that this would not affect on their productivity, and they will still continue paying what is due to the government, and everything. The business will, the economy still goes on, as there are still certain industries that are not really affected by the infrastructure fiasco that we are seeing right now.
So what are impacted then? Could you define for us what is seeming a little bit more precarious given the situation?
We're on the macro perspective, we're seeing a slowdown in funds that's coming from abroad going to the Philippines because there is hesitation and loss of confidence. But on the ground, on the workers we have, they're still uh, waiting. They still have a wait and see attitude how this would turn out, and some would say nothing would happen, and some want something to happen, that those who are answerable should be held accountable to the things that they did to the public funds on hand.
So given that funds from overseas have gone dry, could that mean as a worst case scenario of companies having to let go of employees at some point?
No, it has not gone to that effect. It has not gone down to the effect. There's more scrutiny. There's more delay in releases. There's more risk aversion right now in terms of foreign direct investments. And they are holding back and posturing on a wait and see attitude.
Just as a final point, I know that there's still pending in a bicameral conference something that was an unfinished business in the 19th Congress, reconciling the Senate and House versions of the 100 and 200 peso wage hike. If ever that comes to law, then that's going to be the first nationwide increase since 1989. What's happened to that, given all the investigations that have gone on in both houses of Congress?
Actually, we were both present. I was present in the Senate Labor Committee and also in the lower house. They refiled all the bills, but since the regional wage boards are now increasing the wages, we are hoping the business community that this is moot and academic already. But what is concerning to us is the abolition of the wage boards that is being proposed by several lawmakers. And we are going against that. Instead of abolishing the wage boards, we have a stance of reviewing the effectivity of the 17 regional wage boards we have.
All right. Well, that is clear for us. Thank you so much,
But,
Butch, for your
maybe,
insights.
and all the hearings in the labor hearings in the Senate and in the lower house have stopped because there was a change in leadership from Senator Amy Marcos to Senator Raffy Tulfo on the Senate Labor Committee, and Jojo Revilla, the son of Bong Revilla, has not yet called any labor hearing since all this
Got that.
uh,
So
bad
we're
hearing.
also in a wait and see then on what happens next with the regional wage boards. Thank you so much for your insights,
you.
Butch Guerrero of ECOP and PCCI. No respite so far for the local markets. PSEI closed lower a sixth straight session yesterday, Monday, and the peso weakened to the 58 level to the dollar. After a strong rebound that pushed it above the 6,200 mark, the PSEI has reversed course, recording its sixth consecutive day of losses. It's fallen below its recent reaction low of 60.57. So this downward break suggests the index could face continued selling pressure, potentially dragging it back toward its 2025 low in the 58.04 to 58.22 range. With no clear positive catalysts on the horizon, a further decline toward this support zone appears likely in the near term, says Ron Acoba, Chief Investment Strategist and co-founder of Trading Edge. A convergence of factors has contributed to the dollar peso rallying above 58, namely the appreciation of the U.S. dollar index, prevailing negative sentiment toward the local market amid the ongoing government corruption investigation, and the dovish stance expressed by the BSP. From a technical standpoint, the exchange rate has accelerated towards its August peak following a rebound from an interim base. And while the currency pair may see a short-term retracement, sustained negative sentiment toward the local market may propel the pair beyond the immediate resistance at 58.24, targeting the subsequent resistance at its all-time high of 59.08, adds Acoba. And a quick check at the Philippine markets, taking a look at how the PSEI is open today. Looks like it is still down. A seventh straight session at the open at 59.91, well below the 6,000 mark. As mentioned earlier, the stock market extended its losing streak to 6 straight sessions on Monday. Concerns over flood control issues and the alleged involvement of top government officials dragged the main index below the 6,000 mark. That's the lowest in 6 months, slipping nearly half of 1%. Philstock's financial research head Japhet Tantiangco said persistent worries over corruption, inefficient public spending, and their impact on growth and investor confidence continue to weigh on sentiment. The broader all-shares index also slipped by a quarter of 1%, with services and financials leading losses and mining and oil posting gains. Let's take a look at the peso, see how that's open today. It's a tad stronger, 58.05 to the dollar. Local currency closed weaker yesterday, Monday, 58.145 against the greenback. That is the weakest in 2 months since the July 31 close at 58.32. And taking a look at the 10-year government bond yields, it's inched up to 6.036%. As for the U.S. markets, they've shrugged off a looming government shutdown. The Nasdaq leading those gains among equities yesterday, Monday, rising by nearly half of 1%. S&P 500 climbed by over a quarter of 1%, and the Dow jumped by a tenth of 1%. The benchmark 10-year Treasury yields ticked down to 4.14%, and gold prices have hit a fresh record high, settling at $3,820 per troy ounce, boosted by a weak dollar. U.S. futures are moving marginally in after hours. The Dow, the S&P, and the Nasdaq all down by less than a tenth of 1%. As for the Asian markets, they are looking mixed in the first hour of trading this Tuesday. All eyes on the Reserve Bank of Australia's interest rate decision. The ASX 200 is up by about a tenth of a percent. Kospi and the Japan index down by about half of 1% each. Back here at home, EPLDT has launched Pilipinas AI, dubbed as the country's first sovereign artificial intelligence platform. This allows enterprises to build and deploy AI models through locally hosted infrastructure and data. The platform will be hosted by Vitro Santa Rosa, EPLDT's newest 50-megawatt data center in Laguna. EPLDT President and CEO Victor Genuino said Pilipinas AI would provide access not only to computing power but also to AI tools without requiring them to invest in their own infrastructure. Pilipinas AI includes potential uses of fraud detection, AI-driven weather forecasting, customer service tools, and even AI-assisted medical diagnostics. And that is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. here on One News. We're also streamed live on YouTube and on our Facebook channels. Have a great day ahead.